Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Sever7, and today we are talking about the Poikilo Knives Mini Tuna. And of course, that's with the ultimate goal of seeing if it's worth adding to your collection or your daily carry rotation. Now, these knives were sent in for review by Poikilo. I don't get to keep them. And these are designed and OEM'd by Poikilo Blades. Now, before we jump into it, I do want to give a huge thank you to my subscribers. Everyone that leaves a comment, likes the videos, all that stuff helps out tremendously. Please know that you are appreciated. Thank you. All right, so we've got two versions here. We've got the pearlescent stonewash, and then, oops, try that again. There we go. And we have the DLC. We're going to go ahead, for the sake of the video, stick with the DLC, just because, you know, DLC. It looks like I left some smudges on there. So just jumping into it, we've got titanium scales, front and back. We have something cool is that this isn't anodized, although you might think it is because you can't feel the seam. These are two separate pieces of titanium, right? What's cool about that is they could have just anodized and gotten the same look. They didn't do that though. They did it the more expensive, more costly way, and actually have, you know, basically four pieces of titanium on the two scales. And you can tell because there's a little seam right there. So little things like that I appreciate. We do have a deep carry milled titanium non-reversible pocket clip. And we do have a partial back spacer and then kind of a what's called a pig snout for the lanyard. We have zero outside of the pivot. We have zero hardware. Once again, just the pivot, and then we have zero exposed hardware, which is fantastic and aids to, you know, this knife having a really clean, minimalistic look to it. Now, as far as the ergonomics go, so we don't have a ton of room, right? This is a smaller knife. This is definitely like your quintessential EDC, you know, pocket knife. With that being said, though, I can still get a full 4-finger grip, and I have large, extra large glove size hands. And I do have a smidge of room to spare. And then if I choke all the way up, you can see I've got a smidge back here. So my fingers don't feel cramped. There's also no hot spots on this knife. Even if I bear down as hard as I can, you can't find a hot spot. And, you know, that's because they made the clip long enough and wide enough that it provides like a nice foundation to lay in your hand comfortably. And then, you know, anything that would be considered sharp has been knocked down. So everything's very smooth, very comfortable. Really big fan. As far as the balance goes, it looks like we are about perfectly balanced, which is awesome. And then we do have some jimping. I'm going to say partially functional, because it's got, stylistically, it has the bald spots right there and right there. But it is somewhat deep. I should say not deep, but somewhat toothy. So it's not going to lock you in, but it will offer some resistance from you sliding forward, right? So, you know, if you need a little extra traction, you can use it for sure. But, you know, if you're outside and it's raining and, you know, you're just trying to cut a box for whatever reason, and the jimping's not going to prevent you from sliding all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Now, as far as the blade goes, we have a super handsome drop point blade with this partial mirror DLC. And I say partial mirror because I can technically see my reflection in it. We are rocking a flat grind, super handsome swedge up top, and we have Bowler M398 for the blade steel. So M398 is like basically an enhanced version of M390, where the toughness is not going to be there, right? It's not a super tough blade. That's why it's kind of a light duty EDC. But it's going to have awesome edge retention, and it's still going to be corrosion resistant. And the deal, sorry for the shake. And the DLC finish is going to aid in that corrosion resistance too, which is pretty freaking sweet. Now, as far as the detent goes, we have 3 modes of actuation. We've got the rear flipper, the front flipper, and the thumb stud. The rear flipper and the front flipper have a little bit of a learning curve, but I found that the thumb studs work perfectly, so I just use those. The rear flipper, you can light switch, and it works fine. With the front flipper, you want to aim this way, not this way. And as long as you aim up, let me see if I can get it. Yeah, as long as you aim up, it works fine. But I find the detent is tuned perfectly for the thumb studs, and and I enjoy using them the most. Now, as far as the strength of the detent, it's medium, very snappy action. The acoustics are decent. They're nothing like super special. It's a little muted. I mean, it's fine. Like, you still get the acoustics, but compared to the other Poikilos that I've handled, these acoustics aren't necessarily anything to write home about. And then on the close, we do have a shake shut. Now, it's not a lack of smoothness in the pivot that the blade doesn't drop on its own. It's just the fact that it's a light blade. It doesn't have the weight yet. Well, I say yet, like the weight's going to change. The weight's not going to change. But over time, as this breaks in, and even, adding some pivot oil to it, I do think it will get that kind of like hydraulic smooth drop. Or at least it'll be maybe like a one shake shut instead of, having to shake it a couple of times. But it will get smoother over time. Like I mentioned in my last video, Poikilos have a break-in period, right? Just like if you get a Sebenza, you have to break it in. Now, a Sebenza has to get broken in because it has washers. This is riding on bearings, but their tolerances are finely tuned so much to the point to where there's not a lot of play, right? You're going to have to, kind of earn that smoothness, and you're going to have to give it some time to break in. So I've only had this for a couple of days, and it's gotten smoother for sure, but I haven't had it or used it enough, for it to really accomplish that drop shutty action. But I also haven't taken these apart because they're not mine. So I haven't taken them apart or lubed them up. But rest assured, like, you get it, you do basic maintenance to it, lube it up, and then just put it to normal use, and this thing's going to just get smoother and smoother over time. As far as the looks go, I gotta say, here, let me pull out the pearlescent, that way you guys get a chance to see this. This is one of the most handsome Poikilo knives that I have seen. A lot of that's coming from the blade to handle ratio. By the way, overall length is about 7.13 inches. Blade length is 3.12 inches. Blade to handle is 0.77 or 77%. And it's that blade to handle ratio, that makes this knife look so handsome. But also, the no hardware, the minimalistic aesthetic, the faux bolster, all of it just adds to a really clean design. They don't have a mid-tech version of it yet, but I'm excited to see that because we're likely to get that Timascus, or rather Zircotai pivot. I'm touching the clip and I'm like, pivot. We'll get that Zircotai clip, and I think that would just add to the aesthetic. Very handsome knife. Now let's do a size comparison. We're going to bust out the Civivi Altus. Nearly the same size, and we'll go ahead and bust out the Real Steel Sylph. Also kind of right in that range, all about the same size. And then just to have a big boy on the table, we'll go ahead and put out the ProTech Integrity. And that's going to dwarf it by it looks more dramatic from your guys' perspective, but it's about an inch, inch and a quarter bigger than the Poikilo. So, you know, definitely in line with the Sylph and the Civivi Altis. So it's not overly small, but like I said, definitely your, you know, standard size for your light duty daily EDC. Now, what's the price on this guy? 450 bucks, right? $450 for the Poikilo Mini Tuna. Now, a lot of people equate smaller knife, smaller price, right? Because Poikilo has much larger knives that cost the same or less. Well, smaller knife, smaller price is not the case whatsoever. Because being a smaller knife doesn't make the machining any less complicated. It doesn't make the tolerances any easier to hit. You know, it's the same level of complexity in this knife, and actually maybe even more because not all of Poikilo's knives are zero hardware like this one is, right? So to have a knife of this size with that much blade attached to it, with no hardware showing, and you know, having DLC on the blade, I mean, you know, there's a lot of things going into this. Not to mention just the fact that the machining and the quality of tolerances are a step, like I've said before, above Riot, a step above Best Tech, you know, above We, right? This is a level of quality that we're not accustomed to. Well, I say we aren't accustomed to, but that most of us in the knife world aren't accustomed to. Typically, you hit like Riot territory, high end We stuff, and you know from there you go into mid techs, right? Or the you know least expensive customs. You know, so now we kind of have an in between where we can go a step above Riot and still not be in mid tech custom territory yet as far as price goes. So, so I can absolutely see where the price is coming. You know, as far as the quality of construction, the tolerances, and the little things, right? Like having two separate pieces of titanium, having all hidden hardware, having DLC or the pearlescent stonewash. You know, even the little details like looking at the pivot, you know, how it's got those different angles on it, right? Oh, it looks like I got a little something in there. So the question is this something that I would carry or is this something I would collect? So I absolutely carry this. I like having a nice lightweight EDC knife to just handle daily tasks, right? I enjoy sometimes just having a nice, well, honestly, if I'm being real, it also because it's just a really good looking knife. Like I really love the aesthetic of this knife. Absolutely. Now, is this would this be a collection piece? So this would be a collection piece, but this would because I say collection and users. Here, okay, I'm going to say not a collection piece, but this is a user that would stay in my collection, right? Typically, users aren't mainstays. You know, I'll sell them or I'll trade them or I'll give them away or something like that. This would be a user, but it's something that I would keep. So it would stay part of my collection, but it would be something that I would daily drive or at least rotate with my other knives. Now, if this is not your aesthetic, if this is not your size, that's perfectly fine. 450 bucks with Poikilo goes a super long way. So I would say, you know, instead of the mini tuna, maybe take a look at the taro, which is awesome. It's going to be a little bit bigger than this, you know, and a lot more robust. You can look at the full size tuna, also going to be bigger than this and a lot more robust. They have a lot of stuff in their lineup. So just because this isn't your cup of tea doesn't mean there isn't something in their lineup for you. So I'll link Poikilo Blade in the description at White Mountain Knives. I don't get anything for that, but it'll save you 10% with my code S7. Just the letter S and the number 7 gets you 10% off. So that would drop this down to at 405, you know, which is a pretty good chunk of change, right? Considering no shipping, no taxes. And while I don't get anything for it, it does at least let White Mountain Knives know that I'm shouting them out. So that would be cool. You know, if you do buy from there, if you could use my code, I'd greatly appreciate it. So let me know down in the comments. Is this something that you would collect, or is this something that would find its way into your daily rotation? However you feel about it, I want to hear about it. If you like the video, hit the like button. Please subscribe for more content. And, once again, thank you so much for the love and support. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I can't tell you how much it means and how much I appreciate that. So, like I said, this will be linked down in the description. But outside of that, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And until the next time, peace